Hey guys, it's me again. I'm gonna give you 3 options. Are you able to guess what today's video is about? Yeah, it's about the 3DS again. Making 3DS content this past year has been amazing, and I'm genuinely so happy I could help continue to keep this console alive a little bit longer. But like I've mentioned in every single video up until this point, it's all been leading to one specific day, March 27th, 2023. Now, what exactly is happening on this day, LaiyenZ, you may be asking? Well, Nintendo decided to pull a little bit of an oopsie and discontinue the 3DS and Wii U eShops, meaning no one will ever be able to make purchases on their 3DS consoles past this day. Okay, technically the console's been discontinued since 2017 and is pretty obsolete from the main public eye. We don't got like mainstream people being like, oh, the 3DS, but fans have continued to use it and make purchases for exclusive digital-only games. But with the eShop closing down, it feels like Nintendo's just trying to sweep this thing under the rug and make it fade away into nothingness. Now, of course, all us Nintendo fans, and more specifically 3DS addicts, were all dropped on the head as a kid. So we're never gonna let this thing die. But with the eShop finally closing down, I think it's time for me to make a tribute to the 3DS. Okay, so in order to truly understand the 3DS and why it's so special, we're gonna have to go way back. Since this isn't the first attempt at 3D from Nintendo, they're kind of like addicted to adding 3D to consoles. It's kind of weird. Our first example of 3D technology in a Nintendo console came in 1987 with the Famicom 3D system. Sadly, this was a Japanese exclusive accessory for the Famicom, meaning the US never got the opportunity to feel motion sickness while playing Tobidase Daisukesin on their Famicom. I definitely butchered that. I am sorry. The 3D system was a pair of active shutter glasses that you would connect to your Famicom via an adapter, and then it would utilize stereoscopic 3D images in order to create the illusion that a 2D image is actually 3D. So, how'd the accessory do? Was it a commercial success? The 3D system was a complete and utter failure. Even with the complete failure of the Famicom 3D system, Nintendo definitely was not done dabbling in the 3D market. However, their next attempt at accessing the third dimension is probably one of the most iconic failures in the company's history. The Virtual Boy. Releasing in 1995, the Virtual Boy is one of the most unique Nintendo creations of all time, not only because it did horribly on the market, but because, just look at it. It's like a VR headset, but before VR existed. Now, one major issue was literally every game was in this blood red. Your eyes would start burning into ash while still in your head if you use this thing for long enough. The system had a total of 22 games, some of which were actually pretty cool. There was Wario Land, Mario Tennis, Virtual Fishing. Exhilarating stuff. Yeah, the console sold horribly, and only a year after its release, Nintendo ceased development and distribution of the Virtual Boy. So Nintendo seemingly struck out after 2 attempts of utilizing 3D in their consoles. Maybe this would serve as a lesson, and they decide to spend their time and effort doing something of value. No, they decided to continue experimenting, but this time with the GameCube and Game Boy Advance SP. In development, they created an LCD attachment for the GameCube that could display true 3D, but they only ever made it to be utilized with Luigi's Mansion, and it never made its way to shelves, since it was way too expensive to actually create. Afterward, Nintendo experimented with a 3D LCD screen for the Game Boy Advance SP, but the results in development were not up to par or great at all, so they decided to just scrap the idea entirely. Wow, Nintendo really sucks at 3D, or so it seems, because for the 300th time in the company's history, they decided we got one more in us. So Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi implored the company to do more 3D research, but this time for their next big console, the Nintendo DS. Now, the DS inevitably didn't get any 3D features whatsoever, but the research that they conducted ended up being extremely useful for the company's next console. On March 23rd of 2010, the most influential press release of all time was released. To whom it may concern, launch of new portable game machine. Nintendo company will launch Nintendo 3DS Temp during the fiscal year ending March 2011, on which games can be enjoyed with 3D effects without the need for any special glasses. Oh my god! Nintendo's 2010 E3 was something for the history books. They debuted a new trailer for Skyward Sword alongside a tech demo, which was, interesting.
Hang on, ow! What's going
Bill,
on? What?
Bill, that's not right.
What?
You've got to hold the shield more like a shield.
Wait.
And the sword like this.
Ow! What? No.
They also announced Mario Sports Mix, Kirby's Epic Yarn, and Donkey Kong Country Returns. But at the very end of the show, everyone was still waiting for that one announcement. And then it came. Reggie stood there, all beautiful and luscious, as the 3DS logo illuminated on the big screen. The crowd of people who probably didn't actually care about the console roared in excitement as Iwata came out and showed us the first look at the 3DS console. Nintendo announced in September of 2010 that the 3DS would release in Japan on February 26th, 2011, and they also announced a number of different features we now know and love, one of which being the legendary Street Pass. It wasn't until January of 2011, however, when we would get the official release date for the Nintendo 3DS here in North America, that being March 27th, 2011, and it would retail for a price of $249.99. I am here live outside my local Walmart following the release of the Nintendo 3DS. Okay, I'm lying. The 3DS launch wasn't really like this. The 3DS obviously had a decent amount of excitement at release, but in comparison to other Nintendo handhelds, the launch was not really that amazing. Probably because no one found a need for the console. The launch titles were lackluster, and none of the features were drop-dead must-haves. IGN reported all the way back in 2011 that following the first month's initial excitement, it all kind of just crashed and burned the next month. And they said, as of today, my 3DS has been collecting dust for weeks. The first-party games at launch included Pilot Wings Resort, Steel Diver, and Nintendogs plus Cats. I'm gonna be honest, these aren't tickling my loins. These are obviously not the worst games of all time. That title goes to Chibi Robo Ziplash. But for the launch of your brand new state-of-the-art handheld console, it would have been nice to throw in a little bit of Mario, maybe some Zelda, maybe Donkey Kong, who knows? But no, you wanted us to play with virtual animals. Things did end up recovering somewhat in the next couple of months, since in June of 2011, one of the best titles on the console was finally released. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time 3D. Okay, I get it. You're all mad at me. LaiyenZ, that's a freaking remaster, remake, port thing of an old N64 game. How can that be so good? What do you mean it's one of the best 3DS game, you imbecile? First of all, drown. Second of all, this is one of the most revolutionary games of all time, and Nintendo was able to go ahead and say, yeah, I'ma do you one better. Now, obviously, these aren't just the same exact games at the end of the day, but the graphical improvements in this are extremely significant. All the textures, models, and animations were made from the ground up, giving us one of the most visually appealing ways to experience peak content. Unless you got that Unreal Engine 5 4K Zelda Ocarina of Time next-gen thing, then I don't know what to say to you. June of 2011 was kind of like a redemption month for the 3DS, since in addition to Ocarina of Time 3D, the infamous 3DS eShop finally released. The eShop came to the console through a system update, and absolutely changed the way everyone viewed the 3DS. From starting out as a device with very little stuff to do on it, the eShop broke the door down and said, hey, it's gaming time. With the eShop, we not only had the opportunity to play some amazing virtual-only titles, but we also got some classic Nintendo games through the Virtual Console, ranging from the Game Boy Color, and NES. and also the SNES, but that's on the new 3DS only, and we're going to talk about that later in this video. Foreshadow. The 3DS launch year ended off pretty strong, with the release of Super Mario 3D Land in November, and Mario Kart 7 in December. Both of these games are some of the best on the console. Super Mario 3D Land absolutely blew my 8-year-old brain, since I grew up loving the 3D Mario games on the Wii, so being able to play a 3D Mario game like this on the go. And then there was Mario Kart 7, which holds a very special place in my heart because one of my core Nintendo memories growing up was using Download Play to race against all my friends. Download Play was so special since only one person had to own the game cartridge, but then all of us could play in a room together, making it so easy to enjoy games with friends. The following year was a pretty quiet one in terms of big name Nintendo franchises. We had New Super Mario Bros. 2, which was a pretty fun traditional 2D Mario game. Then there was Paper Mario Sticker Star. We also got Mario Tennis Open, which was definitely a Mario Tennis game. Although the big names like Mario, Zelda, and PES 2012 3D were lacking in this year, there was still some really good games to release on the console. One of my personal all-time favorites, Kid Icarus Uprising, finally made its debut in March of 2012. If you haven't played this game yet, I'm in your walls. In my last big 3DS video, I made a major oopsie since I said every game in 2012 sucked. Little did I know the statement would lead to a bounty being put on my head. I'ma keep it real. I had never played Zero Escape Virtue's Last Reward or Resident Evil Revelations, but following that video and the constant torment from my viewers, I gave both a try, and wowzers, these are some of the best, if not the best 3DS games you can experience on this console. More specifically, Resident Evil Revelations is such an interesting story, and for someone like me who involuntarily his pants from jump scares, it was definitely a messy experience. 2012 was also a massive year for the 3DS since we got our first new iteration of the console, the 3DS XL. On August 19th, 2012, the 3DS XL became available for a price of $199.99 here in North America and could be purchased in either blue and black or red and black. The original 3DS XL is personally my favorite 3DS model of all time, not because it's necessarily the best in terms of performance, but because it's by far the console I used the most growing up, and it also has the most powerful roster of limited editions ever. Not enough people talk about how good the 3DS limited edition consoles were. Each model had its own variety of just beautiful pieces of technology. But the original 3DS XL by far takes the cake for the best. There was the Tamagotchi collection, the Year of Luigi, the Pikachu, that super rare Charizard one that no one could get unless they conducted a hit on a corrupt politician, and then there were these two One Piece ones. Just look at them. They're beautiful. 2013, unlike the past year, was an absolute hit. Plenty of big-name franchises had game releases this year, like Pokemon, Zelda, Fire Emblem, Animal Crossing, and we can't forget your boy's favorite, Donkey Kong. Also, as many of you know, 2013 was the year of Luigi, so we saw lots of Luigi-themed merchandise and games such as Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon and Mario and Luigi Dream Team. A lot of the games released in 2013 have gone on to become absolute hood classics. For example, Fire Emblem Awakening is widely considered to be the savior of that franchise. Animal Crossing New Leaf, in my honest opinion, which is the most important opinion on the planet, is the best Animal Crossing game of all time. And although I don't exactly love these games, Pokemon X and Y was the biggest jump in the Pokemon franchise up until that point, since the games went from a traditional 2D sprite to this. Also, on October 12th of 2013, we got our third model of the 3DS, the 2DS, which released alongside Pokemon X and Y, giving fans an affordable way to get into collecting and playing 3DS games. The following years would continue to bring great success to the 3DS. We would get more installments into the Pokemon franchise. We got Majora's Mask 3D, as well as our very first Super Smash Bros. Game on the go. unless you count Super Smash Flash, which I would play on my elementary school library computer and then get yelled at since I wasn't supposed to be playing that game. The 3DS would also release in 3 new models: the new 3DS, the new 3DS XL, and the new 2DS XL. Personally, my new primary console of choice within the 3DS family is the new 2DS XL because it has that stronger processing power, but it also just looks super sleek and good looking. Like, if this console was 5 feet taller, I'd get married to it. What? So, after an initially rocky start, the 3DS would go on to become one of the best handheld consoles of all time, with a library of games that could entertain even the most veteran gamers. But after years of success, fun, multiple model releases, the time finally came for the greatest tragedy of 2020. The discontinuation of the Nintendo 3DS family of hardware. 2020 was already a horrible year due to a little thing called COVID-19, but then Nintendo decided to roll up and say, hey, I'll do you one better, and they stopped selling 3DS consoles. On September 16th of 2020, the 3DS family of consoles was officially discontinued, and although it was a very sad moment in world history, the 3DS community was still very alive and continued to play on these consoles. But then Nintendo decided, alright, we're gonna come back and make you less happy. We're gonna close down the eShop. You know, knowing about the eShop closure for this past year has caused me to wake up in terror every night, since I won't be able to aimlessly spend on random digital-only games anymore on my 3DS, one of my personal favorite activities when I am bored. Obviously, it was always inevitable that the 3DS eShop would close down, but now that it's actually happening, I can't let go. Alright, no 3DS tribute video would ever be complete if I didn't talk about the legendary modding scene within the community for a little bit. Modding your 3DS is probably the greatest thing any human being could do on this planet. Curing terminal illness? Psh, no. Does that let you use eShop? Obviously, with the eShop closing down, it's going to become very difficult to play some exclusive digital-only 3DS games in a legitimate manner. So if you haven't already done so, I would highly recommend going ahead and modding your 3DS today. You will not regret it. And it's also super easy. You literally cannot mess up. Trust me. Unless you're stupid. The 3DS is not dying anytime soon with the amount of support the console gets online. But with the eShop closing down, it feels like one of the final pieces of my childhood has finally faded away. So I'd just like to say thank you to the 3DS.